Hello world, Tim here again. So today I thought I'll geek out a little bit and talk about something fairly technical. I'll tell you the reasons why we picked what we picked for the development of our app, what will I do differently, and how we're going to go from where we are. Now, it's important to consider where you start your startup, and myself, I think I already mentioned I'm not a developer. So at that point we had iPhones, so we sort of naturally kind of assumed that probably most people use iPhones, which was a bit, maybe in hindsight is a bit arrogant, but it is what it is. You learn your mistakes. We'll file it under there. Now, so we started with iPhones, and obviously if we're developing for iPhones, we choose something native to iPhones, which in our case was SwiftUI. Again, I'm not the developer. So when I started looking into the documentation and then eventually working in what's now called vibe programming, which is using a chatbot. In my case, it was ChatGPT, at that point 3.5, I think. I started with a free version, and probably in about a month switched to paid version because a free version wasn't enough. So it's fairly important to go with what you feel like is the right thing to do at the time. It can always be revisited. Sometimes it's probably more expensive down the track, but if you don't make these kind of mistakes, you don't learn. Same goes to, I guess, most things in life. So if I were to do things differently, I'd probably do a bit more research on what people use for mobile development, rather than just getting all excited and jumping into the first thing that I see. So, and if I did, I'd probably wouldn't pick SwiftUI unless I was 100% sure that my market base is purely within iPhones and never goes away outside of it. In our case, because we use and try to cover as many people as we can, it's not just iPhones. In fact, despite of the market share says, which in Australia, where we are, is about 70% iPhone users and 30% Android. From what we found is actually, at least in our circle, is most people use Android. So naturally, when we released the app about 9 months later, we quickly found that people were saying, hey, I have an Android phone, and when is the Android version coming out? We thought, oh, okay, maybe just one or two people. It wasn't the case. And as we keep on finding out, is that more and more people actually use Android devices. It could be just that so happened to us in our circle, or maybe not. And we actually found out the same thing when going abroad. When we spent time in Japan, everyone we met who wanted to use our app, actually about 90% couldn't because they're all Android users, which again actually is strange because Japan again is about 70-30 towards iPhones. So now around April this year, now it's June, we found that's probably okay, it's time to completely rethink how we approach it and try to cover as many bases as we can and get our backs and get on with getting the Android app. So in our case, we picked React Native, and which, as we understand, is what you want to use if you want to cover both Android and iPhones. There may be some other languages that I don't know about, so pop it in the comment if there's a better way of doing it. So to recap, started with iPhones, realized about a year and a half later that that's just definitely no go we definitely need to cover both bases, and started switching to React Native. So we are right in the middle of developing the app that will cover hopefully everyone. So we wouldn't have those kind of questions. We'll have other questions, but in hindsight, it is a good lesson, as I said, but you have to think as a sort of an entrepreneur, what sort of market you want to cover. That's fairly important. Yes, it's okay to make mistakes, but do the homework. It's easy to get excited, but sometimes you just have to just hold yourself back a little bit and spend maybe even a day is enough, or even a week, maybe asking your friends, which is normally your immediate audience and the first audience you ever have. No matter how much praise you're going to get, those kind of people you want to use as your target to start with. Because, let's be honest, those are people you interact with on almost daily basis. So try to do your research. Now, going forward, what else would I do differently? Probably not spend as much time thinking about going to other platforms, but probably do it sooner. I'll save a lot of pain. So that's very quickly my recap of my thoughts on how I went on developing the app, in case this is actually interesting. So thank you and have a great day. Bye.